So yeah, the Forbidden Woods is essentially forbidden because, apart from the dangerous reasons, because the truth of the Healing Church's power, their experimentation, and their role in the Beastly Scourge is hidden there. The schism goes back to a difference in opinion, essentially, as to how to ascend. The Church feeling like it could use the Old Blood directly. But aside from that, the scholars at Bergenworth know the truth, and if someone were to make it to Bergenworth, to those origins of the Healing Church, there'd be big trouble for the Healing Church. And so, with that said, let us just watch this clip, and we'll watch the schism taking place, or a pinnacle moment in the schism taking place.
Master Willem, I've come to bid you farewell.
Oh, I know, I know. You think now to betray me.
No, but you will never listen. I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open.
Fear the old blood. I must take my leave.
By the gods, fear it, Lawrence.
Yeah. And so with that, the schism has essentially taken place, with Lawrence not really betraying Willem, but essentially differing on his opinion on how to use the blood. And that is how the church goes forward henceforth, is it essentially ignores everything to do with insight and focuses on the blood. And ultimately this experimentation by the doctors of the church leads to the beastly plague. Now, of course, that's not a good thing for the church, and that's why they want to keep it hidden, hence the Forbidden Woods, which lead to the truth of that matter. But aside from that, they actually benefit from the Beastly Scourge. This is something that Aegon of Store talked about in his Let's Talk lore for Bloodborne, which is really great, and if you haven't watched it, I'd highly recommend it. And he talks about how they use this to their advantage. They point the finger and they become public with their hunters, and they use it as a big show to control the populace. And so with that, they kind of have this gross veneration, almost kind of flying right in the face of what Willem says of the blood, as we can see here from this really kind of ostentatious shrine. So you can see that these, I think they're female figures, look very much Temerian, and I believe they are meant to be, as well as the kind of pouring of this blood is kind of a holy medium. It looks like a kind of angelic figure, probably part of the fake pantheon that the church kind of uses to control the masses. And you see messengers also, if you look very carefully. I'm going to try and tilt the camera. See messengers just there, next to, above Lawrence's skull. So they venerate everything really to do with the old blood. And so with that said, we are going to take our leave and move on to the Forbidden Woods to just find out why it's forbidden. And while we're kind of heading that way, I'll talk a little bit more about the Pale Blood Hunt and what Redgrave describes that as. He describes it as an intellectual difference, and he calls the loyalists, the people who stayed loyal to Willem, the loyalists, and then he calls people who followed Lawrence and the people who founded the church, essentially, he calls them the radicals. And I think that's a pretty apt description. I don't necessarily agree with everything that is in the Pale Blood Hunt, but I do believe that compared to Willem, and albeit Willem's methods are pretty extreme for us regular people playing this game, I believe that the description of these people as radicals is pretty apt, given that they essentially lead to the Beastly Scourge, and even after that, they still don't really stop with their experimentation because they believe that it's worth it. They believe that this death and destruction is worth it, and also, like Aegon of Astor describes in his Let's Talk lore, it does give them control of the populace. They point to the beastly scourge that happened in Old Yarnum, and instead of taking the fall for it, which they really should have, they take that opportunity to go public and seize control of Yarnum, seize control of the city and of the people that live there, just by pointing at the scourge and saying, this is what happens if you don't listen to us. And so, with that being said, we're going to now head down into the Forbidden Woods, and we are going to give a password that we learned, Fear the Old Blood,
The password.
that we learnt from Lawrence's memory there. Okay. But that's neither here nor there, because we are now in the Forbidden Woods. The part of the world, or the journey, that no one in the Healing Church wants the public, or people of the public, to take, because it will eventually lead to the discovery that it was in fact the original scholars who founded the church meddling with the old blood that not only abused the power that could be taken by that, but experimented on the populace and eventually triggering the beastly plague. And that's probably enough on that. I think the schism's quite a well documented part of Bloodborne lore, but what isn't is a more kind of difficult part of Bloodborne lore, and what I'm probably going to talk about a little bit more now, once I've survived this encounter here, is the snake parasites that you find within the Forbidden Woods, because they seem slightly out of place with some of the other beasts. And through looking at various other people's theories, I believe I have some decent understanding that I'd like to share with you what these people are. So, in the woods, we meet a character who is the head of the Confederates. And what the Confederates do is they are obsessed with taking down any sources of corruption. And they do this by seeking out the corruption in the form of vermin that exists within all things. And these vermin take the appearance of centipedes, and I believe I have one in here because I actually co-opted with... I think it must be consumables. Yeah. So I've got one of these, thanks, because I thankfully co-opted with a Confederate before it actually got here. And I'll just read the lore here. Vermin found hidden within filth are only seen by the League Confederates and are the root of man's impurity. The League has assumed the task of finding and crushing all vermin. Perhaps there is mercy in the madness. Those who wish to see vermin can, and those who choose to are provided with endless purpose. So, despite the fact you could read it to be that those people in the League are insane, and to a degree they are because they're fixated on a singular purpose, these vermin do actually exist because we do physically crush them, and we do get an item called vermin. And so these vermin exist within men, and they take the form of a centipede. And this has been discussed numerous times, especially with the advent of Sekiro, because this subject is explored a lot more in depth. But essentially, these centipedes in Japanese culture and mythology represent corruption. They are a source of corruption that are meant to represent the writhing kind of parasites that exist within stagnant water or stagnant things. Stagnation being a big focus in Japanese culture, with flowing water seen as very pure, and JSF talks about this in a lot of detail in his Urden video. I haven't been here for a while, so I don't remember the exact methods to get through this area, so please bear with me. But yeah, the vermin and centipedes are meant to represent corruption in Japanese mythology, which is why they've chosen that centipede-like item to represent that. Okay. Well, forgot about the traps. That was close. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Good Good one. I'll just turn down the sound effects a little bit there. I think they're a little bit loud. And the music a tiny bit as well. Okay. After that absolute fail there, I've kind of lost my chain of thought. But yes, going back to the centipedes. So the centipedes represent essentially vermin. So before I go any further on this train of thought, there's one other thing I should mention, is that a lot of people think the snakes could just be another form of the beastly scourge, just another form. So the Forbidden Woods are often theorized to be the location, the physical location to the entrance to the Chalice Dungeons. So the Chalice Dungeons we experience in games seem to be accessed through a kind of like dreamlike mechanic, in that we don't actually go through a stone door, pushing a door open, entering a Chalice Dungeon. We break a seal, and we enter what is theorized by many, and I agree with this probably as well, given that enemies like Ebertas exist within it, and in the real world, that these are like dream versions of the Chalice Dungeons. But that is neither here nor here, ultimately. The physical entrance still isn't how we enter the Chalice Dungeons, no matter how you see it. So a lot of people theorize that the Forbidden Woods are on top of the Chalice Dungeons, and so, in part, they believe that that explains the explains the reason for the snake parasites being here, because in certain Temerian, I think it's Echiel dungeons, you find snakes. And so it's theorized that they are part of the original Temerian beastly scourge, and that simply explains their presence here, is that they've escaped from the labyrinth and come into the forest, come into the Forbidden Woods. And I think that in part is true, given that there's also another connection to the Temerians and the snakes, and that is of course the Shadows of Yharnam, which fail. In the form of the Shadows of Yharnam, who are related to the Temerians, of course, because they are the shadows of Queen Yharnam rather than the shadows of the city of Yharnam. And you see that from the Blood Rapture rune that they drop, and hopefully we'll get to that point today, maybe not, depending how much we can get through in an hour, and I don't just stand around staring at these fires talking. Anyway, yeah, so the Shadows of Yharnam are, in a sense, Temerian, whatever kind of mythological kind of creatures they are, or they're just straight up Temerians, but they are infected with the snake parasites, as are some of the more kind of regular humans in this forest area. So the snakes in this world aren't just snakes, they are in fact very much parasitic creatures. And I've just noticed something, so let's just stop, and this is something that Aegon of Astora noticed as well in his playthrough. Because I have the correct insight, you can hear baby crying, so let's just stop for a minute and see if we can hear it. This is before the blood moon being beckoned, and I just heard it there. If I don't hear it in a minute, I'll go back to playing. There. So I've got 62 insight before we beckon the blood moon, and so we can see that our insight allows us to kind of essentially look beyond the current and see what's happening in the future. Not in the future, what's actually happening behind this nightmare. So that's a very nice thing. Anyway, carry on, back to the snakes. So let's just go with the fact, let's just make that leap in that they are another form of parasite. The snakes are another form of parasite, given that they do infect people's bodies here. What does that actually mean? Why does it take a different form from the vermin that we find within men, or, you know, the centipede-like ones that the Confederates find? Well, it could be one of two things. The first one being connected, and this is a theory that I've seen a couple of times, being connected to the fact that the snakes come from the Temerian dungeon. And that this is a kind of different strain of vermin based on Temerian. So it could just be that these are snakes. Hey cool man, what's going on? Not much, I'm just keep disconnecting, so I have to keep reconnecting, so please stay with me if I drop out for a few minutes. It just my internet's been dodgy. But we're just talking about vermin, snakes, why the Forbidden Woods are the Forbidden Woods, and just there I turned my sound effects up, because you can hear the baby in the ritual early on in the game if you have high enough insight, which I do. And you can still kind of hear it. I've turned down the sound volume now. But anyway, it's a lot of people think that the snakes are simply the vermin that have come from the Temerians, given that the Temerians have been through everything that we're going through right now before. And I think that could very much be true, given that they are present in the Chalice Dungeons. Oh, why did I forget that? So I like that idea, that they come from a different strain, different blood, and that's why they are different types of vermin. Could just be that they're more far gone vermin, given that they've been around maybe for a bit longer if they've been in the Temerian Chalice Dungeons. But ultimately, the way they behave is parasitic in nature. They don't really behave like, you know, typical snakes. But there's the other part to this story which came with the DLC in the form of the Madras Twins, and I'll actually carry on playing, sorry, instead of standing there. So the story of the Madras Twins, and I think it comes from the whistle and the butcher's outfit, but again, correct me if I'm wrong. So the Madras Twins are two twins that grew up in this wood and would eventually join the League, or at least one of them would, the younger one at least would. At that point he would start seeing vermin and everything. They apparently raised a giant poisonous snake. Now it doesn't say snake parasite, it just says a giant poisonous snake, and when you use that Madras whistle it summons a giant snake that just kind of seems like a snake rather than a parasite. And then the story goes on to say that one of them at least started to notice vermin and everything, as you do as a Confederate, as that centipede vermin item that I looked at describes. And so he saw vermin even in the snake that he had raised, and he killed it. And so a lot of people see... Yeah, exactly. I think that it's a different type of vermin, exactly, cool man. And so a lot of people see, and I don't know if this is true, but a lot of people see that original snake with the Madras Twins that had vermin in it became maybe a patient zero for a new strain of vermin, given that it was infected with vermin itself. And that's just another nice idea that I thought I'd run past you guys. Not necessarily anything that I... Oh, no, get out of here. Ah. Oh, you can tell I haven't played this in a while. Yeah. So I think those quite neatly tie together the idea of vermin and snakes. You have to make a little bit of a leap and a little bit of a jump yourself. And given that vermin technically wasn't added in DLC, I can see why people maybe don't like this explanation, because the DLC came after the fact of the main story. But even before that, you could see that they were parasitic in nature. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There's lots of different. You're right, Coolman. There's lots of different vermin, and yeah, I think that these snakes are just another form of vermin. They take, you know, that writhing form that JSF talks about in his Erden video, and so I can definitely buy into the fact there are other types of vermin. And the position of the League here, including the younger Madras Twin and the leader himself, very much suggests that their presence here isn't a mistake. The force could just be very perfect conditions for vermin to breed, and the snakes are growing so large because it's perfect conditions for vermin. It could be as simple as that. Or, as many people theorise, the Forbidden Woods could be set upon the Chalice Dungeons, which again flood this area. I don't know why I'm attacking that dead body. I'm just going to read your message in a minute, cool man. It looks pretty interesting. These dogs run into the fires. Alright, I just love the moveset of the current camera so much. It's my favourite. And I love the Arhar outfit as well. So depiction of vermin seems pretty varied. Lawrence's beetle thing society and Sekiro, which is the same underlying idea, yep, absolutely, of stagnation as beetles. And one of the chalices emits cesspools of death, noxious pits of writhing snakes and insects. Yeah, totally. So I can see these as being other types of vermin, maybe coming from the Chalice Dungeons, if this is the area of the original Chalice Dungeon entrance. That would be a nice kind of neat way as well to tie it together, but it doesn't need to be. It's just another kind of nice part to the story. Because when I first played Bloodborne back when it released that first year, they were, and I don't think I was alone, they're probably the most confusing enemies. But again, I'll kind of reiterate the fact that they are infesting the Shadows of Yharnam, which does, and not just these ones that are elsewhere, in the Nightmare of Mensis, I believe, as well, which again does suggest that kind of connection between these, and as Coleman says about the cesspits of death, originating this strain of vermin originating in the Chalice Dungeons and seeping out into the forest, which, as we can see, is a pretty dark, dank place, nice and damp, lots of stagnant pools of water, lots of dying and dead people. Perfect place for vermins really to grow and breed. Yeah, so that's right, Cold Steel. The ability to see these, I'll read the item description. I think if I'm not getting attacked again of the vermin, because it tells you that. Perhaps there's some mercy in the madness. Vermin found within filth, hidden within filth, are only seen by the Lee Confederates. So that Carol room that we get, I think it's the Impurity rune, it's only seen by those who have that insight. So that's an interesting point, and it obviously means that is a uttering of a great one that has allowed them to perceive, for some reason, this impurity. Fascinating. Yes, writhing is a very important word. JSF talks about the fact that Fake, or Second Josefa, talks about writhe in her speech. Yeah, it's a more kind of cosmic effect of the writhing stagnation, rather than the more kind of discussing, visceral version that we get within the blood. Within the vermin, sorry. I'm actually stop to show you guys my build if anyone's interested. I'm not doing anything really exciting. I'm over leveled at this point. Interesting. I'm listening to the dialogue, sorry. Anyways. Are they praying? Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it steel, but some people have theorized that it does. What I'm actually doing a video on... no, sorry, it wasn't a stream command. It was a video called... I think it's Bloodborne Up Close, and it's about Erden, so I've checked that out. And he talks about... He's talking about Erden, but he ends up talking about stagnant things, stagnant water, stagnant blood, and those two runes about writhing, and then essentially vermin. So yeah, I'm over leveled at this point just because I've been doing a lot of Chalice Dungeons, the random Chalice Dungeons. Not really anything I've kind of done before. It's not really interested me up to this point, but yeah, I really enjoyed it this time, over leveling a little bit. And here we go. So yeah, back what you were saying, Cold Steel, I don't necessarily theorize that it does harken back to that, but a video I am doing on that, well, that's what JFS theorizes, but he thinks that in general there are themes of stagnant blood and stagnation in this game. It's very clear in Sekiro that there's themes of stagnation, but what JSF says is that, and this was before Sekiro released, of course, and he identified this stagnation theme, is that the corruption and all the issues that kind of come with the blood in this game is because of stagnation, because the blood isn't moving. They're just injecting the old blood in, and it's stagnant, and all these impurities form. And he thinks that, yeah, that the words writhe are indicative of, or make you think of that stagnation. I'd highly recommend that Erden video. It's very good by JSF. But yeah, to Kos, I don't necessarily think it goes back to that, but a video I am doing... Yeah, the sediment thing, which again, super important in Sekiro. Yeah, very interesting the links between Sekiro and Bloodborne. Now that we've kind of got everything out of Sekiro. But yeah, I keep thinking, forget what I'm saying about Kos. Kos, I'm doing a video on Kos, a lore video for the YouTube channel, where I discuss, and it's nothing to do with the vermin. Sorry, I'm going off from that because some people link the original sin of the village back to the curse of Kos. Loads. So back to Kos. I keep getting interrupted. Really sorry, Cold Steel, about this. But what I'm trying to say is, I thought it was this really important scene, the fishing Hamlet scene, and specifically when you enter into it, you've gone through the sins of the church in the research hall. Then you go further back to the first kind of sin of all the hunters, which was the massacre that took place at the fishing hamlet. And I think it's presented in that way. It's this deep, dark secret that's hidden in the deepest recess of this darkest dream. And when you first enter that, you get some really important dialogue from the fishing hamlet priest, I'm going to call him. The fishing hamlet priest. And it stuck with me, even though I haven't played Bloodborne for like maybe a year and a half. It's still one of the most kind of important scenes for me in any of the Bloodborne games. And what he talks about there is he says something along the lines of, and I can't remember the exact dialogue, which I said I'm doing a lore video on this, so I'll go into more detail on that. He says, "Lay the curse of blood upon them," and he's talking about the hunters when he talks about that. And I haven't seen a huge amount of people talking about this. Sinclair Lore talked about it in a podcast. But I felt that line was really important. And then he talks about, and their children, and their children's children. And so this is the idea of blood curses, right? Lay the curse of blood along them. So in the normative sense, the non-Bloodborne sense, yeah, you were. That's cut content, absolutely right, Harad. You were supposed to give him the Yarnab Stone, and he would thank Mother Kos for this outside messenger. But he says something about their children's children. And what this dream is it's the dream of the blood drunk. And so there's many issues with being a hunter. You can become a beast, or you can become blood drunk. And this whole scene of this original sin by the hunters that then curses their children's children, to me means a little more than just him, cursing out loud. And he says, by the wrath of Mother Kos, and I believe that it's kind of like the original sin. So the original sin in Christianity is a sin that we all inherit from our ancestors, right? From that original sin, which was eating the fruit in the Garden of Eden. And then any other sin after that we inherit from our father, Cain's murder of his brother, everything like that, we inherit that now. That is what it is in Christianity, apparently. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying this is the theory. And so for me, the fishing hamlet was that moment for the hunters. And so I'm going to research it a little bit more. What did they say, Coolman? I don't think I have. Damn it. Yeah, so I think there's more to that dialogue and the wrath of Mother Kos than just a dialogue. It's the full curse. So, do you think that supports my theory then? That it is a real curse rather than just them, saying these things? They're not just words, that there is maybe an effect to it. Do you think that could be true? And that the wrath of Mother Kos possibly could be blood drunk? That could be the curse that we inherit. Becoming blood drunk could be more than that. It could be anything. Could be. I don't think it's the scourge itself. I think the old blood is tainted, or maybe that's the reason it's tainted. There's definitely more to that. That line is so important to me. I don't know why it is. Maybe it's just a feeling I had. Mothers dead, taking scales are suffering. Curse the fiends, their children too, yeah, and their children forever true. So it's a blood curse, and in a blood curse in Bloodborne, which is all about blood being passed down and infused. Apart from the normative sense, which a blood curse means that it passes through the family, or generations. Mother Kos, wrath of Mother Kos. I think it's something important. I've not heard it spoken about too much. And one thing I've always loved about Bloodborne and in general Dark Souls games are the vistas. And so you'll be able to see from our right here that we can already see our target, and that is Bergenworth and the lake. That is the institution of Bergenworth there. I love this view. In general, I love the views in Dark Souls when you can see other areas from your area. Yeah, I've heard this theory. I don't generally connect them to Horad. I understand why people like to connect the game worlds and stuff, but yeah, I don't like it. But yeah, I know people think it could be like the new world that she's painting. Yeah, is Bloodborne. I'm not one to necessarily discredit that. It's just something I choose not to believe. Seem to be getting through this area pretty well, even though I can't remember exactly where I'm going. Is this not near the area where he is? Yes. The abhorrent beast himself. So, if you haven't watched it before, it's so difficult to talk about Bloodborne lore without talking about Redgrave, but if you haven't seen it before, I would highly recommend that you watch Redgrave's video on Dark Beast, because he talks about this chap here. Yeah, I thought it was neat as well, Horrid, but yeah, not a lot to back up. I think they're just completely separate IPs. But yeah, here he is, eating, and then for some reason, despite eating right in front of us, also they say straight up in the guide, I've got the guide, I'll have a look at that tonight, so they straight up say it. It's strange then that I haven't heard this discussion talked about a lot. I'm really excited talking about it on Sunday with the rest of the guys. But yeah, it'll be good. So let's go and talk to him.
Whoa! Blimey, don't scare me like that. On a night like this, I took you for a monster. Oh, thank the stars, you're fairly normal. Was it you who put down that awful beast? Ooh, that thing had me trembling, frozen in my boots. And then you came along. Well, if you're a hunter, then would you know of any safe havens?
Oh, should I send him to Erden and let him kill everyone? Haven't done that for a while. I might, because I'm not going for childhood beginning in this playthrough. Because I actually have never done the Yarnum Sunrise. I just always do the childhood beginning. So I'm going to do the Yarnum Sunrise in this one. So I'm probably just going to tell him of Erden's Chapel and just let him have at it, I think.
Well, I'll be. Thank you.
On it as well. So this guy is, he says, was it you that killed that awful beast? And Marcus A&B, I think, was the first person that said he thinks it's that beast below, on the below the ladder that I killed when I was looking at the view there. But it could also be he's talking about, in general, the beast that did all this massacring that I'm a poor person caught up in. It wasn't me that massacred all these people, it was the beast that did this, rather than that specific one downstairs, covering up the fact that he is in fact a terrible beast, and playing a little bit coy with us. I think that's what it is, and I'm very excited to let him massacre everyone. Actually, never let him do that before, so that'll be a lot of fun. Maybe not fun. It's a bit of a weird thing to say, but you know what I mean. Okay, so we're going to drop down here. Cannon. Yeah, good fail ahead, exactly. I should have put that down. Alright, so... Am I missing anything? I don't think so. And we can go down now, yeah. Actually, the first time I played this game I really didn't like this area, but I'm actually quite enjoying it this time. Yeah, I think so, Coldsteel. And then he's basically shifting the blame. He's inferring that those people are dead there. Did you send him up there the first time, Horat? So you think that he's trying to... Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting. Okay, this is one of the snake parasites then, so we've discussed that at length at the beginning of this video, but let's just let him unleash. And yeah, it's obviously... I mean, it couldn't be any more like Vermin, could it really? Man, the card camera's such a satisfying weapon. Yeah, they're creepy enemies. They're very disgusting, very vermin-like. So yeah, it definitely makes me feel happier about the conclusion that we came to earlier. Yeah, very Resident Evil vibes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that. So here we are. That is not the way I don't want to go. Sorry, I haven't played this game in a good year or so, so I'm trying to get my bearings a little bit. Can I go up this yet? No, that's below us. Right, so we are going across this bridge. Yeah, let's play this. Yeah. So yeah, that abhorrent beast is very, very interesting to me, and hopefully I'll explore him a little bit later when he starts killing everyone at the chapel. What's really interesting about him, cool man, is I watched this in Aegon of a Store's playthrough. Let's Talk Lore. Can't plug that enough. It's so good, such a good series, and where he plays out the whole storyline of him and lets him kill everyone, and then obviously Aegon tries to fish him off. But what's interesting about him is a beast because he's a dark beast. I think he's outside Colt Steel. Yeah, but he talks to you, and he claims that, you know, he's like, you call me a monster, when it's actually the hunters that are the monster. He's got a level of intelligence and sentience. He's a beast that seemingly, or some people believe, can change form at will because he kills people, and then when you see him again, he's in human form. So the abhorrent beast, and in general the dark beasts, I think we call them. I think he's out the bit where the amygdala is, and you go up the steps towards the gate, the initial gate. So not down towards Old Yarnum, but up towards the upper part of the Cathedral Ward. I think where he is close to. He's out by like a wagon. Yeah, so by the amygdala, yeah. And he's just out there, chilling, killing people. Yeah, so he's a little bit more advanced, and again, Redgrave talks about the Dark Beasts in his video, that they're the kind of, they're the top dogs, excuse the pun, of the beast world, the most highly evolved forms, and that he shows he speaks like a commoner, a Victorian English commoner when you speak to him outside. When he's transformed, he's very intelligent, very eloquent, which is fascinating. Maybe he's pretending, though. Like there I said, he's pretending very, very coy there about, oh, did you kill that beast? It's not me at all. So, yeah. And yeah, so that's exactly right, Colt Steel. Theoretically, this is not, obviously, you know, absolute truth. So, so you obviously can, of course, make up your own mind. But yeah, that is what Redgrave claims, is that Pearl, the beast that has no skin at all left, is a very, very highly evolved form of beast. Given his size and power as well, it's not hard to see why Redgrave comes to that conclusion. And I don't know if you noticed it, but in Aegon's playthrough, he theorizes, or one of his... Yeah, it is very interesting. He theorizes that it's a result of the irreverent Izzy's experimentation, though, and that this person was someone who escaped from the cell that you travel out to Pearl's Arena. So if you remember Pearl's Arena, you go into a cell at the back of the room, and then you travel through like a dugout hole that enters out into that grave. And so one of Aegon's viewers theorized that Pearl was a kind of transforming beast, a human at some point, that dug his way out of the cell in Yar Ghul. I don't know why I said Yar Ghul. And he was the reason that dug that hole from the cell, and that he was a prisoner there. So that's very interesting. But we finally made it to our man, so we're going to talk to him. And this is the first covenant that I'm actually going to be able to join in the game.
Ah, a new face, are you? And an accomplished hunter, it would appear. I am Volta, master of the League. Members of the League cleanse the streets of all the filth that's spread about during the hunt. Like any half-decent hunter ought to, you know? Haven't you seen enough of these wretched beasts? Freakish slugs and mad doctors.
Freakish slugs.
Since they
Exactly,
spend
Colston. Exactly.
with the help of your League confederates. What do you say? Why not join
I
the
need to get a more
League?
comfortable gaming chair.
Yes, as a hunter well should. Commit this to heart. Our own Carol rune, symbol of the League.
Symbol of the League. Very exciting. We're going to stick this on immediately.
The night brims
I love
with
being part of the
defiled
League.
scum and is permeated by their rotten stench.
Alright, cool
Just
man.
think,
Thanks so much for joining me.
now you're set
I'll
to hunt and kill to your
thanks for the
heart's
follow as well.
content.
We'll definitely do this again
In
soon.
cooperation with
Hopefully
your
every
fellows,
Thursday.
your
Maybe
League
more. We'll see how it goes. Thanks very much, little bud. Alright, thanks for that, Voltaire. I'll just carry on talking.
No, there is one thing you must know. By the oath of the League, those who bear its rune will see.
So this is what we spoke about earlier.
Vermin writhe deep within all.
I agree,
filth
Colt Steel.
And
I
at
agree.
the root of man's impurity. All vermin.
So this is what we spoke about earlier, how it's with this insight from the rune
exists
that we
to
can see the vermin. So for some reason, an uttering of a great one that was inscribed onto this room became the reason for being able to see vermin.
All vermin, you must
Yeah, Vicar Amelia was as a result, because it says something about,
this bloody fate is ours.
I'll find the lore about it in a minute, Harad.
Do not expect
But we know that
the world
those of the
to grasp
church
our work.
become the most horrific beasts because of the close
Confederates
experimentation
will
with
always
blood.
have my blessing.
Clerics become the
And
most horrific
each
beasts.
other.
And so Vicar Amelia was
Always.
obviously destined to become a terrible, terrible beast. And that's just, yeah, it just takes over her body. And she just, yeah, turns into this horrific stag-like beast. But again, that just shows the beast can take different forms, like Ludwig's giant horse, essentially. So again, people who think that the snakes, the vermin snakes, are other types of beasts are not necessarily wrong. So let's have a look at this rune. And so the forbidden beast eater is Voltaire, because there is a lore item found in the Blood Drunk Hunter's dream, and I can't remember exactly what item it is, that speaks about how he and his other Confederates chased down a beast, and it killed everyone, and then he ate the beast. So Voltaire is the beast hunter. So under his helmet, I'm not really sure what's going on there, but there's something different about Voltaire. He's not as composed as he appears to be, and we see that kind of taken over when he starts to speak a little bit. You know, he starts almost shaking with anger when he starts speaking about vermin. So yeah, he's an interesting character. Vermin writhe, so then there's that word writhe. So again, it harkens back to what JSF said about the writhe runes, about how writhing, very much has to do with that. Vermin writhe within filth, stagnation, stagnant blood, and the root of man's impurity. Crush all vermin without hesitation. So we're just going to do that. We're going to crush a vermin now. Yeah. And then you have to do 5 before we can level up.
The League exists,
Yeah.
and so this do not expect the world to grasp our work. But remember, the Confederates will always have my blessing, and each other. Always.
Yeah, I guess there is spiritual successors to the Sunlight Maggots. Essentially the same thing. Especially the snake ones, they embed themselves and take over the body like parasites. But yeah, Voltaire is very interesting. He is the beast eater. So we're gonna go back to the hunter's dream, and I'm gonna get that rune on myself immediately. Very much enjoyed the Forbidden Woods tonight. I usually don't, and I enjoy the lore behind it. I definitely think it's forbidden for private church reasons. They claim it's for the dangers that it poses, when in fact they are just protecting themselves, as they always do. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit, to protect the secret of the fact that they are the ones responsible for the madness of the Beast Scourge, because they broke off from the teachers of Willem, who wouldn't have let them do that otherwise. Alright, we are going to get this rune stuck into my head. Yeah, same, Harad. I didn't enjoy it the first time. But it's funny because the areas sometimes that I don't enjoy initially are areas that I come to love. So in Dark Souls 2, I love the gutter area. yeah, not the Black Gulch, the gutter area, because it's one of the best lit and atmospheric areas in Dark Souls 2, kind of what we were promised before release, and I think it looks really good. Same in Demon's Souls. I really like the Valley of Defilement, that's what it's called. I really like the Valley of Defilement because I know it's annoying function wise, but it looks really, really good, and the lore is really, really good there. And it's the same with Forbidden Woods. I hated it the first time because, you know, it seems scary, but it's the lore's great there. Blighttown being probably an exception to that. I still don't think the lore's that great there, and it's really just not an enjoyable area. But yeah, I enjoyed getting through the Forbidden Woods tonight. But thanks for joining me, guys. I'm probably going to call it there, just because this was a test stream, just to see how everything was going and chat about lore with you guys for a little bit. Probably going to upload this to YouTube, edit it out, edit the parts where I dropped out over and over again. But I really appreciate you guys being here for the first stream and joining me for the Forbidden Woods. No, thank you, Goldsteel. Thank you, Harad. Thanks to everyone else for being here. It's been a pleasure. It's been a very easy first stream, and I very much enjoyed it. So I hope you guys will join me next Thursday, and podcast hopefully going live this Thursday. If I can't fix the problems with my internet, I might just record it and then upload it to YouTube. But I'll announce that on my community tab in my YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed there for any reason, please do.